So, what are we all doing here tonight besides getting ready to watch an amazing sunset?
Wait, let's get everybody here. Here's what so you guys, everybody, it is time for the Key West Conch Republic Mallory Square Sunset Celebration. 36 years in a row. If you miss it this time, you can get it next year.
But we got to figure out, some of these people might not be from here and not know what the Conch Republic is. Is it the Conch Republic?
The Conch Republic. So, come on over here. This is where it's happening. Don't be afraid.
Come on. There ain't no Conch Republic.
Yeah. So, if you say, we're going to give you a little tip here. If you say Conch when you're in a restaurant or anywhere down here, you're going to have gratuity added to your check immediately.
I'm not going to get mocked. I like to encourage people to say that so we have something to laugh at all the time. The word is conch. Conch. Can everybody say conch? That was weak. Can everybody say conch? That was better.
So in a moment, we're going to introduce our Prime Minister of the Conch Republic, but we're also going to need our military up here.
Oh yeah.
So we need Admiral Finbar.
Admiral Finbar.
To come up to the podium, please, so we can kind of kick this thing into gear a little bit.
And by the way, this is Conch Republic Speaker of the House, Administrator of Rum, Paul Menta.
The second one's a lot easier if you're over 21. All right, so 36 years ago.
And I'm
Mr. Conch Republic?
Mike Mongo.
I like Mr. Conch Republic.
All right.
So, 36 years ago.
36 years ago, holy smokes, right here, an amazing thing took place 36 years ago. A lot of people don't know this, but the Conch Republic, that's Key West, that's this territory where you are right now. Welcome to the Conch Republic, everybody. 36 years ago, long live the Conch Republic!
Long live!
As I was saying, 36 years ago, an amazing thing took place. There was a blockade coming into this fabulous place we call Key West.
Hold on a second. As the Speaker of the House, I got to overrule you. I actually have the person behind me that actually can tell the story, because he was here, he did it.
Mayor Dennis Wardlow is here.
Mayor Dennis Wardlow is right here. Let's hear it from him.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Conch Republic. I hope you're enjoying yourself. The beautiful weather, sunset. It's great, isn't it? Well, let me tell you real quick. 36 years ago, man, that's kind of hard to remember at this point, but you know. Anyway, basically what happened was my dad was a ham radio operator. He was blind, but he started hearing these complaints from the 18-mile stretch of his roadblock. There was 23-mile roadblock. No one could get through back to Florida City and so forth. So he gave me a call on a Sunday, and he asked me what was going on, and I had no idea. So I called the chief of police. He had no idea. I called the sheriff. They didn't know. They just knew it was a roadblock and the traffic jam. So then about that time, my secretary on a Monday morning started, when I got to the office, there were people calling, wanting to know what was going on and so forth. Called our state representative and I got, well, they'll check into it, but they weren't sure. So I asked for our congressman's, Dante Purcell's number, and finally received that, and I called Congressman Purcell at the time, and he's deceased now. And he said he didn't know, but he would check into it and call me back. So that's when I started getting worried, because usually congressmen don't call you back. But he called me back, and he said that the Border Patrol was putting up a checkpoint between Florida City and Monroe County and Key West. I said, well, why would they do that? And he said, I don't know, but I'll give you a phone number to call the head of the Border Patrol, which, if memory serves me right, was a Captain McAdams. So I called the Captain McAdams, and he informed me, after I asked him a few questions, that they had it up there and it was none of my business. And I informed him that it just became my business because he's choking our economy, our tourists. Just prior to that, we had, as probably most of you recall, the Mariel boat lift. And again, They were all coming through Key West, even though most of them were transferred down to Miami, up to Miami. But it was choking our economy because the news media had put it out that, you know, we were being overrun by illegal aliens and so forth. So we were trying to get back our tourist industry, and about that time, Border Patrol decides to put a checkpoint at Florida City. And here we go again with the news media, and no one could get in or out of the Florida Keys. So I had called the radio station, John Magliola, asked him if he had any information. So come Wednesday, my secretary was going crazy. She didn't know what to do, so I had called Virginia Pennico, who was then head of the Hotel Association, and Ed Swift, who, as you may not know, he owns now the comp train and the trolley, but he was president of the Chamber of Commerce. So I talked to them for a while. I said, you know, and they were telling me, well, you know, what are we going to do? You got to do something because it's killing the tourist industry. Everybody's leaving, and we've gotten all these cancellations. So with that, I said, well, maybe we can file an injunction. I gave David Paul Ferrand, who's a federal attorney and a local guy here, great attorney, and I asked him if he could get an injunction in federal court real soon. So he says, let me get back to you, I'll call you back. Well, this was Wednesday, probably around noon. Well, Wednesday night he called me and he said, Thursday at 9 a.m. we have an appointment in federal court in Miami before Judge Atkins. So fortunately, Dave had his own plane, he's a pilot. So Dave Horan, Ed Swift, Virginia Pennico, and myself got in the plane. We flew to Miami, went to the federal court, and you know, Dave did his lawyer business, and we're trying to figure out exactly what was going on. And we were getting a lot of double talk. So finally, the judge asked the Border Patrol, you know, you need to clarify this. And he said, well, basically, we're looking for illegal aliens and probably some drugs, if nothing else. Probably. So with that, I had picked up the newspaper on the way in, the Miami Herald, I believe it was. And on the Miami Herald, it showed that coming up the Miami River, there was like 5, 6, 10 tons of marijuana, cocaine coming up the river, and I forget how many aliens were coming up on these ships. So as the patrol was giving their speech, I asked Dave, I said, Dave, is it okay if maybe I asked a question or two? And he said, yeah, not a problem. So I asked the judge, and I said, Judge, let me ask you a question. I said, here the Herald's got all of these people coming up. I'd like to ask the Border Patrol, how many illegal aliens have they found in this 23-mile traffic jam that's been going on since Sunday? And how much drugs? So with that, they get up there and they said, well, we had about 5 or 6 that we found. And I said, where were they from? He says, well, we had 3 Canadians and a German
Canada.
So, and they had about 3 pounds. That was perfect timing. And they had about 3 pounds of marijuana on the side of the road. And I said, well, you know, who's going to sit in a 23-mile traffic jam as illegals or with drugs in the car? I said, and the judge says, well, I tend to agree with you. I said, well, how long do they intend to keep this? May I ask that question? So with that is really what caused all of this. This Border Patrol opens up this blueprint to erect a permanent Border Patrol station between Florida City and Florida Keys. So, you know, i.e. Mexico, Canada, wherever. So I asked the judge, I said, Judge, this is ridiculous. And he says, I tend to agree with you, but I do not have the authority to stop them. However, I can make them limit the amount of cars they could stop at a time and so forth. So with that, you know, it adjourned. Dave said, well, we didn't win, we didn't lose, but it was like kissing your sister, I guess. So we walked out, and with that, there was a sea of reporters that met us at the door. And they put the mic in my face and said, Mr. Mayor, now that you've lost the case, what do you intend to do? And I kind of looked at Virginia, and they had a Conch Republic flag there that Claude Valdez, who's now our Betsy Ross, had designed. And I don't know where it came from, but I said, what are we going to do? Tomorrow at noon, we will raise our flag. If they're going to treat us as a foreign country, we're going to become a foreign country. And so we
Long live the Republic! Long live the Conch Republic!
We get in the car. No one said a word to me. We get to the airport. We get in the plane. Ed Swift turns to me. He was riding co-pilot. And he says, Dennis, what the hell are you going to do? I said, Ed, I haven't the slightest idea. But I guess I've committed to something, so we need to maybe put a quick plan in place right now. So that afternoon, here at the Mallory Square, right there in the front, the Pinos brought a low boy and some mics, and we had our flag. I said, we're not going to lower the flag, we're going to raise our Conch Republic flag. So with that, I get a call. Good timing. I get a call from the admiral of the base. At that time, it was a Navy base with the Coast Guard. And we're pretty good friends. And he says, Dennis, Mr. Mayor, you can't shoot at our ships. I said, Admiral, I don't know what you're talking about. He says, it's in the page of the Miami Herald that you're going to shoot at our ships and we're going to declare war. I said, well, we're declaring war. You've treated us like a foreign country. So with that, I go to the office, and my secretary is Stella is just going totally nuts. She's getting phone calls wanting to know what's going to happen to Social Security, where kind of money we're going to have. It was just crazy. So with that, I get a phone call from, at that time, Tony McGeer, who had a biplane, and he said, Mr. Mayor, don't worry about a thing. When you raise that flag, I'm going to come over Mallory Square and I'm going to bomb them right out of the water. I said, whoa, Tony, wait a minute. You can't do that. What are you going to do? He says, I've been up all night since I've heard this. He says, I've been cooking a pot of conch fritters and boyers. He says, we'll feed them till they drop. I said, that's not a bad idea. So here we go. At noon, we get there, and I got the American Legion, and I got all these people. They're going to tar and feather me. My political career is over. They're going to run me out of town on the rail, you name it. So I get up on the stage, and I see some of our county commissioners, and I won't name names today. They've got this protest sign, don't tread it on this old gray mayor, and the former mayor and some of my commissioners in county, don't mention my name, you're crazy, your political career is over, blah, blah. You know, it was kind of scary at the time. So about noon, we read our proclamation, and with that, I see one of my commissioners, Joe Balmonting, he's deceased, but he's got this loaf of Cuban bread like a gun. And I'm like, and in front of me, because I've been already threatened to be arrested, the FBI, CIA, everybody was going to take me out. And I see him standing there, and one of my other, Jimmy Myra and a couple others, and this guy in uniform, I guess he was a captain or something from the Secret Service or the Navy, he was right in front of me. And I'm looking at Joe, and I say, you know, this guy's a little eccentric, no telling what Joe's going to do. So after I raised the flag, we declared war, and with that I look up, and here comes the biplane over Mallory Square, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope he's not messing around too much here. So with that, I said, we have declared war, and we've raised our flag, and we're now at war. And with that, I see Joe walk past me, and he's got this, and most of you know Cuban bread is like French. When it gets older, a day or so, it gets hard and brittle. He walks up to this guy, and lo and behold, he hits him over the head with his bread. And I said, well, I guess we're really at war now. So with that, I let that ride for about 60 seconds. Immediately after that, surrender. We asked for $1 billion in foreign aid, which is still an active application. They just haven't sent it yet. They're getting around to it. And right. So anyway, that's why the Conch Republic was established. That's kind of what happened. I did spend 12 years after that as the mayor, and here we are 36 years later. I'm still here. And, as as you can see, it's really been great. It's a lot of history. My grandkids today, there was a book as The Conch That Roared, and they've read it, and they look at me and say, "Papa, were you all right back then? Were you on something?" Or I said, "I don't know." I said, but they're very proud, and they're you know, we've had they've written essays and history and received very high marks, and we've had people call us from Texas and California, New York, different places asking me how to do it, how do we succeed. And I said, just do it. Raise your flag, tell them you're done with it. But we're still good Americans. We love our country, and within that, I got to tell you one antidote here. Last Chance Saloon. I don't know if you all seen it as you pass by Florida City. Well, Skeeter Davis was the owner and proprietor, and Skeeter Davis was my outpost. And he'd get his Confederate uniform, and he had this cannon. And every time they'd put the roadblock up, Peter would call me and say, "Mr. Mayor," back then we didn't have cell phones, he had to call me on the landline. "Mr. Mayor, they've just put the checkpoint back up. What do you want me to do?" I said, "Shoot them." And I said, "Skeeter, I'm kidding." So he'd take this cannon, and this thing, when it went off, I mean, it sounded like a cannon. And these guys had scattered. And he said, "Okay, Mr. Mayor, I did it." I said, "Yeah, I heard it." Well, within a couple of weeks after this, they finally acquiesced, and slowly but surely, when they'd put it up for a couple of hours, they'd leave, and then all of a sudden they disappeared, and we never heard from them again. And so that's the story.
Where others failed, we succeeded.
We seceded. So that's the story of the Conch Republic. Little short version. There was a lot going on in between and things that have happened. But
Right before you give out what you like to do, from all of us here at the Conch Republic, myself, Mike, all the military, all the citizens of the Conch Republic, you have been an inspiration to us. For 36 years, you've inspired us and helped this island survive. And you know my other title's the Administrator of Rum. So we'd like to present you with this honorary limited edition, 36 years, aged but not mature rum. And thank you for your service for 36 years.
Anyway, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate that. And as you can see, when we started this the second time, most of you probably don't recall, some of you might, you could shoot a cannon down to Wall Street and you never hit one thing. All those stores were boarded up, you remember that? And it was really getting very depressed. The Navy had pulled out after that, and it was a very depressed city, and we were looking, how are we going to bring our economy back? And I want to thank each and every one of you all, because you have brought our economy back to us. Thank you very much for visiting Key West, Conch Republic. And with that, it is my honor now to make a proclamation honoring Admiral Finbar Gilman. Admiral, step up. It's a good thing the sun's shining because I can't see. Okay. Whereas our first Sea Lord and Supreme Commander, Admiral Finbar, is a vibrant member of the island's civic. Wait a minute, man, I can't. Can you see that? Civic and maritime community, and service on the Propeller Club of the U.S. Port of Key West, the Board of Directors, and as a founding and active member of the Elder Council and past president of the Key West Bight Preservation Society and former liaison to the City of Key West Bight Board. And now, therefore, I, Dennis J. Wardlow, Mayor Prime Minister, founding Prime Minister of the Conch Republic, and pleased to ask all constituents to join me in proudly honoring and celebrating the first Sea Lord and Supreme Commander, Admiral Finbar, for his profound and acknowledgement and service as an inspiring example and commitment to our Republic ideas, and to hereby proclaim April 23rd, 2018, Finbar Gittleman, the official ancient mariner of the Conch Republic and Key West. And therefore,
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. And it's officially acknowledged I am ancient. And thank you so much. This is one of the greatest honors I could ever imagine having in my life. And yeah.
thank you.
And I can't tell you how much we all owe this man here. He's the guy that had the guts to stand up to a bunch of out-of-control bureaucrats and protect our honor and our territory.
Long live the Republic! Long live the Conch Republic! Long live the Conch Republic! Long live the Conch Republic!
Okay,
All conch shell blowers.
All conch shell blowers for a 21 conch and gun salute to celebrate our independence.
You've not been in Key West until you've blown a conch. Right?
Where can we
Perfect.
stand that we won't get shot?
I'm sorry, darling. Okay, guys.
It's that time.
Like, what time is it? Wait? Or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
All hands ready? Okay. Ready to smell for that. All right.
18 conch salute.
Okay. Firing detail.
And now with the right to bear arms and legs,
And dummy loads. Yeah, they're dummy loads. Yeah.
it's not live?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes. Dummy loads.
We just had a visitor in town recently, so.
Right.
If you're in the front row, hold on.
Firing detail. Ready. And fire. Ready. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire.
Thank you.